Today I am explaining about the working of ring counter. A ring counter is a shift register with the output of the last flip-flop connected to the input of the first flip-flop. It is initialized such that only one of the flip-flop output is 1 while the remainder is 0. So the basic ring counter using a negative edge trigger D flip-flop. As shown in above PPT. Here D0, D1, D2, D3 are the inputs. Q0, Q1, Q2, Q3 are the output. In this circuit, the output of the first flip-flop is connected to the next input, next flop input, and last flip-flop output is connected back to the first flip-flop input. So here the flip-flops are arranged as in a normal shift register, that is the Q output of each stage is connected to the D input of the next stage, but the Q output of the last flip-flop is connected back to the D input of the first flip-flop, such that the array of a flip-flop is arranged in a ring, and therefore the name ring counter. The Q naught output sets up the D1 input. Q1 output sets up the D2 input, and so on. Therefore, a ring counter resembles a shift right register because the bits are shifted right one position per positive clock edge. But the circuit differs because the final output is connected back to the D0 input. The kind of action is called rotate right. Bits are shifted right and connected back to the input. So now operation of the ring counter. In most instances, only a single one is in the register and is made to circulate around the register as long as clock pulses are applied. Initially, the first flip-flop is preset to a 1. So the initial state is 1 0 0 0. That is Q naught is equal to 1, Q1 is equal to 0, Q2 is equal to 0, and Q3 is equal to 0. And after each clock pulse, The contents of the register are shifted to the right by 1 bit and Q3 is shifted to Q0. The sequence repeats after a 4 clock pulse. So it's a truth table as shown in above PPT. When preset goes low, then back to high, the initial output word is Q is equal to 1 0 0 0. In the first negative clock edge shift the MSB into the LSB position. The other bit shift one position, therefore the output word becomes Q is equal to 0 1 0 0. And the second negative clock edge causes another rotate right and the output word changes to Q is equal to 0 0 1 0. After the third negative clock edge, the output word is Q is equal to 0 0 0 1. And the fourth negative clock edge start the cycle over because the rotate right produces 1 0 0 0. The stored 1 bit follows a circular path moving right through the flip-flop until the final flip-flop sends it back to the first flip-flop. This is why the circuit is called a ring counter. So now you take 4 clocks. First one is low, that means initial state. So output Q0, Q1, Q2, Q3 is 1 0 0 0. And during the first clock pulse, the first MSB bit is shifted to the right, means next position. So outputs 0 1 0 0. And when applying the second clock pulse, then the 1 is shifted to the second position. Therefore Q0 is equal to 0, Q1 is equal to 0, Q2 is equal to 1 and Q3 is 0. When applying a third clock pulse, then that bit is shifted to the third position and output is Q0 is 0, Q1 is 0, Q2 is 0 and Q3 is 1. And again when applying the fourth clock pulse, then output is come back to the first position. So that is 1 0 0 0. Already we told that the output of the last flip-flop is connected to the input of the first flip-flop. So again you can take 4, 5, 6 or 8 any bits. So until in each input only one is high and remaining all the inputs are outputs are zeros. And take another example. Add more flip-flops and you can build a ring counter of any length. With 6 flip-flops we get a 6-bit ring counter. Therefore the successive ring words are Q is equal to 1 0 0 0 0 0. That is initial position. And when applying a first clock pulse, then output is 1 is shifted to the first position, then output is 0 1 0 0 0 0. And during the second clock pulse, the output is 0 0 1 0 0 0. During the third clock pulse, the output is 0 0 0 1 0 0. And during the fourth clock pulse, that is fifth one, the output is 0 0 0 1 0. And during the fifth clock pulse, the output is 0 0 0 0 0 1. And during the sixth clock pulse, the output is again come back to the first position, that is 1 0 0 0 0 0. So each of the going words has only one high bit. The number of distinct states in the ring counter, that is the mode of the ring counter, is equal to the number of flip-flops used in the counters. An n-bit ring counter can count only n bit, whereas an n-bit ripple counter can count 2 power n bits. So the ring counter is uneconomical compared to a ripple counter, but has the advantage of requiring no decoder, since we can read the count by simply nothing which flip-flop is set. Next, applications of the ring counter. Ring counters are used to count the data in a continuous loop. They are also used to detect the various numbers, values, or various patterns within a set of information. By connecting and OR logic gates to the ring counter circuit, 2-stage, 3-stage, and 4-stage ring counters are used in a frequency divider circuit as divide by 2 and divide by 3 and divide by 4 circuit respectively. The 3-stage Johnson counter is used as a 3-phase square wave generator which produces a 1200 phase shift. The 5-stage Johnson counter circuit is generally used as a synchronous decade counter and also as a divider circuit. The 2-stage Johnson counter are also known as a quadrature oscillator, which is used to produce 4-level individual output or out of phase with 900 with each other. This quadrature generator is used to produce a 4-phase timing signal. Ring counter is used in a successive approximation register. Ring counters are used in hardware logic design. A counter is being used to control the sequence of operation. Next, classification of memories. The memories can be classified into many ways. Some of them are listed below. In general, the memory is classified in two types. Usually they are made of access of a memory system. Random access memory. The word of data reading or writing from or the memory requires the same time. We can access the data randomly. Example, hard disk. Sequential access memory. So here memories are classified into different types: primary memory, cache memory, and sequence memory. And again here primary memories are different types. The primary or main memory. The memory which is directly accessible to the CPU is called main memory. Example, ROM and RAM. Semiconductor memories are used as a main or internal memory of a computer. It stores programs and data that are being processed by the CPU. Semiconductor memories are well suited as the main memory. because of the high speed of operations. Such a high speed of operation is possible by decreasing the propagation delay and increasing the switching speed of the memory elements. But this increases the cost of the memory. In simple, we can say that these memories are faster, smaller and lighter and consumes less power. The semiconductor memories are available in the form of ICs, integrated circuits, with different memory capacities. The capacity of a memory IC is represented by 2 power n into m, where 2 power n represents the number of memory locations available and m represents number of bits stored in each memory location. The formula for memory capacity of the memory is 2 power n into m, where 2 power n is the number of memory locations and m represents the number of bits stored in a number of bits. Example 2 power 10 into 8 is equal to 2 power 10 is 1024 into 8. The number of address bits required to identify 2 power n memory locations are n. Example to identify 1 out of 1024 memory locations, 10 address bits are required. To increase the bit capacity or length of each memory location, the memory ICs are connected in parallel and the corresponding memory location of each IC must be selected simultaneously. Example 1024 into 8 memory capacity can be obtained by using 4 memory ICs of memory capacity 1024 into 2. According to active device used, based on the active device used, the memories are classified into two types: bipolar memories and mass memories, metal oxide semiconductor memories. Bipolar memories. In these bipolar memories, the multi-emitter transistors are used to store the data. Bipolar memories are faster than the mass memories. Okay, bipolars are the faster than the metal oxide semiconductor memories. metal oxide semiconductor memories. In this, the unipolar devices such as metal oxide semiconductor, field effect transistor are used to store the data. So MOSFETs are used to store the data in this mass memory. So MOSFET means metal oxide semiconductor field effect transistor. These have high package density as compared to the bipolar memories. According to the movement of data. Based on the movement of data, the memories are classified into two types, that is static memory and dynamic memory. Static memory, semiconductor memory devices in which the stored data will remain permanently stored as long as power is applied, without the need for periodically rewriting the data into memory. Dynamic memory, semiconductor memory devices in which the stored data will not remain permanently stored even with power applied, unless that data are periodically rewritten into memory. The latter operation is called a refresh operation. Most of the static ROMs are built using MOS technology, but some are built using bipolar junction technology. In this section, we will see both the types. Secondary or auxiliary memory. The memory which is not directly accessible to the CPU is called secondary memory. Examples: hard disk, floppy disk, magnetic tape, etc. The memory which is not directly accessible to the CPU is called a secondary memory. The secondary or auxiliary memory is also known as peripheral memory because it is connected as a peripheral device to the computer. The auxiliary memories are used for bulk storage of data and information. Auxiliary memory operates at a much slower speed than internal memory. It stores programs and data that are not currently being used by the CPU. This information is transferred to the internal memory when the computer needs it. Auxiliary memories are cheaper than the semiconductor memories. In semiconductor memories, the information is stored in magnetic or optical form, but in semiconductor memories, the information is stored in voltage or charge form. According to the method of access, based on the method of access, the memories are classified into three types: random access memory, sequential access memory, and direct access memory. Random access memory. The term random access means that any storage location in the memory can be accessed in any order to read or write data. In other words, the access time is the same for any address in memory. Actually, most ROMs are also random access devices, so the terminology is somewhat misleading. More precisely, the RAM is a read or write random access memory, and the ROM is a read only random access memory. Most semiconductor memories are RAMs, sequential access memory. In a sequential access memory, the memory locations are accessed in a sequential or serial fashion for the purpose of reading or writing. In this memory, the access time is not constant but varies depending on the address location. Therefore, the time required for accessing a memory location for writing into or reading from is different for different locations. Direct access memory. Some memory devices such as a magnetic disk, magnetic disk and here the each track magnetic disk or drums contain a large number of independent rotating tracks. If each track has its own read to write head, the tracks may be accessed randomly, although access within each track is serial. In such cases, the access mode is sometimes called a semi-random or a direct access. According to a period of storage, Based on the period of storage, the memories are classified into two types: volatile memory and non-volatile memory. Volatile memory. In this type of memory, the stored information is dependent on a power supply. That is, the stored information will remain as it is as long as power is applied. If the electrical power is removed, all information stored into the memory will be lost. Example, RAM, random access memory. Non-volatile memory. In this type of memory, the stored information is independent on power supply. That means the stored information will present as it is even if the power fail. Examples: ROM, PROM, EPROM, EEPROM, etc. Many semiconductor memories are volatile, while all the magnetic memories are non-volatile. Which means they can store information without electrical power. Next, according to the type of accessing allowed, based on the type of accessing allowed, the memories are classified into two types: read only memory, read or write memory. Read only memory, the data stored can be read from but not written into the read only memory. We can only read from this memory and not written into it. Read or write memory. This is the memory in which we can read as well as write the data. The main memory, magnetic disk and magnetic tapes are all read or write memories. So these are about the different types of classification of memories and their operations. Now, what is the difference in between RAM and ROM? Shown in above PPT, a differentiation in between RAM and ROM given in the tabular form. RAM, RAM, random access memory. ROM, read-only memory. RAM is a volatile memory. ROM is a non-volatile memory. Allows reading and writing. Allows reading only. Temporary storage. Permanent storage. And here another differentiation. RAM is expensive, ROM is cheap. Performs read and write functions. Performs read functions. Example DRAM and SRAM. Dynamic and static RAM. PRAM and EPROM. Static RAM. A static RAM contains more transistor and a capacitor to store a bit. A static RAM can occupy very large space. It is used for specialized applications. PRAM stands for programmable read-only memory. These ROMs can be used by manufacturers to store the microprograms. Next to different in between DRAM and SRAM. Dynamic read access, random access memory. Static random access memory. DRAM and SRAM. DRAM constructed of capacitor that leak electricity, constructed of circuit similar to a flip-flops, requires a recharge every few million seconds to maintain its data, holds its contents as long as power is available. And DRAM is inexpensive, it is expensive. DRAM is slower than the SRAM, it is faster than the DRAM. Can store many bits per chip, cannot store many bits per chip. Uses less power, uses more power. The DRAM generates less heat, the SRAM generates more heat. It is used for mainly memory. It is used for cache. So these are about the different in between DRAM and SRAM. Thank you.